Hi guys. So I've been meaning to do this since Monday, and I've just Wednesday night had a chance to sit down and actually do it. I just want to say thank you for all your support about Monday, about me finally managing to float on my back. Um, to some people that probably sounds like, oh, and what? But anybody that's known long enough, seen my previous videos and posts, will know that I actually have complex PTSD. Just for the record, for anybody that doesn't know the difference between CPTSD and PTSD. So PTSD generally comes from one incident, one occasion, one happening, and for instance, somebody sees somebody being killed, or there's an attack or anything that can cause trauma, a one-off incident. Complex PTSD is where there has been repeated trauma to some degree. Some of it may not be as bad as other things, but because of the fact that it's building up and there's more than one occasion, obviously, the way I look at it is that something, if it happened once, you might get through, you might bounce over it, but when the same things keep triggering the same response, then it becomes complex. Or it can be all different things that have happened. Generally stems from childhood when it's complex PTSD. And there can be an initial incident that is quite traumatic in itself, and then other things just add on to it. It's a bit crap, to be honest, is the best way of putting it. I think is probably the best way of describing it. You can imagine trauma on a one-off incident. It's devastating, it's impacting, it can ruin people's lives, and people recognise it. People sort of say, oh my God, that must have been absolutely terrible to go through that. And everybody goes, oh God, yeah, that's awful, and a lot of empathy goes there. I think when you look at complex PTSD, there's some of the things that I've probably spoken about in therapy that on their own, people would think, well, surely that can't have had that impact. But as I say, it's the repeated nature of it. And not everything's repeated. There are some instances where things have happened once and that in itself's been traumatic. But the one I'm talking about now is quite obviously the whole swimming incident. And just for anybody who didn't see my earlier videos, long story, very, very short. We used to go swimming with school, junior school. And in what would be year 5 now, so third year juniors, we had a teacher called Mrs. Jones. And we used to go to Cypress Street Baths in Stretford. If you're local, you'll know where that used to be. And we had, I can't remember the actual swimming teacher's name who lived at the bath, so to speak, but Mrs. Jones used to come on poolside with us, the class teacher. And as I say, I couldn't swim. And I went up to her and with my back to the pool and said, can I have some armbands, please? And she went, you don't need armbands, and shoved me straight back in the water. Well, I couldn't swim, so I have no recollection. I remember going under the water, and I can remember being under the water. And for a long time, I couldn't even visualise that without having a meltdown. So it took a lot to be able to talk about it, but I can talk about it now. I still have absolutely no clue what happened after that point. But I remember Mrs. Dodgson, who was deputy head, I think, took me to, well, I don't even remember how I got to the changing rooms, if the truth be known. I remember being in the changing room and Mrs. Dodgson trying to help me get dressed, and that's the first memory I have after being pushed in. I vaguely remember going for the coach to come back and a few kids asking me, was I okay? I don't remember anything after that about it at all. I don't remember how my mum and dad come to hear about it. I don't remember if I told them, if the school told them. I don't know. I have not got a clue. I do know there must have been holy hell broke out, quite rightly so, because I remember that there on in, when the rest of my class went swimming, I did not go to the pool with them. And I had to go in Miss Penny's class, and she was a bit harsh, but it was obviously better than going back to the swimming baths. Long story short, Mr. Denell, who was my teacher in year 6, he was lovely, and he managed to get me back in the water. And he offered my mum and dad, he said, I'll go in the pool with her. And it all became, because we'd done this, we had to do a story what we'd wish for if we found a magic wishing ring. And I'd obviously wrote, I wish I could go swimming with my friends. And I think he realised how much of an issue that was, and offered to take me in the pool. Didn't learn to swim till I was 18, and my friend Lorraine taught me how to swim. Can't remember how long that took. I don't remember it taking too long. I can remember messing about in the water every day, because we used to go every day, and doing these mushroom floats and dead man floats and trying to get under the water for stuff. But I could only ever swim on my front, and I could only do breaststroke brilliantly. I used to go to the gym every day when the kids were little, and I used to easily do 30 lengths of that gym pool, which I think is 20 metres as opposed to 25. And yeah, don't have a problem in it. I was in my depth. Gym pools, they only come to here, don't they? They don't, you're not going to go under. That's still an issue, going under deep water. I'm not big on being out of my depth. And I think that is because it triggers that same sensation of going in backwards. So I've been okay with that. And probably about, I don't know, maybe 18 months ago, 18 months ago, I decided it was time to get over this. Not get over it because it was going to be easy to do, but to nail it and claim that bit of my life back. And yeah, I put, it can't be 18, must have been about 12 months ago. It was before I finished therapy, because I'd mentioned it then. And Andy, my therapist, said, you've got to wait 3 months, but why don't you come back and we'll deal with that. We dealt with a completely different issue when I was having the EMDR. And yeah, basically I went back, and I've got a lovely therapist again called Karen. And yeah, it was a case of, right, we need to do this. But obviously, in order to work on it, I needed to be able to go and practice it. Put a little call out on Facebook saying, I'm looking for a swimming teacher, ideally that will get in the water. I can swim. I need to nail this, being able to swim on my back and float on my back. And I was lucky, because a few people came forward offering to help, and one of them was Claire. And if you see my post, you will know about Claire. Claire and myself only met earlier in the year. She ended up being my first aid teacher through Flourish, and the mental health first aid teacher. So that's how I knew her, and that's how come I had her on Facebook. And she messaged and she said, I'm willing to help, words to this effect. She used to be a lifeguard. She teaches lifeguards, she's done swimming tuition. And she said, I'll come a couple of sessions and see how you go. And I don't know how, but somehow or other, I felt very, very safe straight from the off with her. It took a while to get where I could even think about trying to lie on my back at all. we did some breath work. I tried holding on at the sides in the corner and going. And as soon as I got where my bum was coming anywhere near the top of the water, I full on panic. And Claire said, "You can tell it's trauma. You can absolutely tell it's trauma by the way I reacted to basically a couple of centimetres movement." It was like, I know I'm in water I can't drown in. I know I'm in water with a lifeguard. I know I can't drown because I couldn't swim, but I might as well be in back 10 and in Cypress Street baths. So it did take some work. We did a lot of breathing exercises. That helped. We then, somehow or other, I don't know how, in the first session, managed to do this like scooting and frog kicks. I'm still doing me breaststroke legs on my back, up and down a few times, and I was absolutely amazed. I was gobsmacked, absolutely buzzing. We did that session. We went again the following week, and I managed it again. And then we had a few weeks off for one reason and another. We couldn't make it. And then we arranged to go again, but I got there early. And instead of waiting, me thinking, oh, I've got this, I've nailed this now, no breath work, does me normal lens warms up, goes to it on my back, couldn't manage it, could it? Sent myself backwards. I was like, what the? I thought I could do this. So by the time Claire arrived and I told her what I'd done, she said, "Did you do any breathing?" I said, "No." So I said, "I just can't do it." Anyway, I managed to do a little bit, but nowhere near as good as I had been. I come away from that session, I was gutted. And then we went the week after, which was last time, and I did absolutely fine. Sorry, no, it wasn't last time. It was the week before this week, and managed it okay. And then this week we went on Monday, and we went in the aqua aerobics class first again. And I said, I think in a way that's helped because it's loosening me up a bit, moving around in the water and everything. Did the breathing exercises, managed to swim perfectly on my back, do my little free stroke, we'll call it. So it's probably the equivalent of doggy paddle, my arms, but sideways, and my frog kicks. So perfect. And then, out of nowhere, this woman comes and says, "Oh, you're learning to swim?" So I said, no, I can swim. I said, we're just trying to work out how I'm going to get on my back, because even though I could swim, I still could not nail floating on my back. And it might sound daft, but swimming, I'm in control, I'm moving. Lying on my back in water is about me having to trust the water for a start and trust the fact that my body will float. We'd sorted some affirmations out the week before, and I'd come up with one: floating is my natural state of being. Claire said, think about the fact that we're largely water, you're at one with the water. And I said to this woman, yeah, because obviously, I said, it's not even because I wear this big dreadlock swimming hat, which obviously gets a certain amount of air in. It doesn't keep the water out. It's never used in an ornament. But I said, I wouldn't mind. I said, I bet I can't even put my head under with this. And we tried it and I couldn't. And it was literally like a light switch had gone on. Like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? My head can't sink. How's that? Claire tried it. She's brilliant. She tries everything. Even she says, "Oh, just let me check if this is going to work before you try it." She couldn't force her head underwater unless she forced herself to do a backflip. And something just some little light switch went on in my head, and the next thing I was floating on my back. I was like, "Oh my God, what is going on here?" Couldn't get my legs right up. Had a little bit of a panic when we weren't that far. Anyway, said to Claire, I said, I've just been trying to see if there's a second and there isn't one. So she counted. And she said, you lay on your back for nearly a minute and a half there. And she'd said, let's do it away from the walls. Let's go a bit nearer the middle. And I'd gone, no, I'm not ready for that. Well, by the time I'd done the minute and a half, I'd drifted and floated into the middle of the pool. And she went, you said you weren't going in the middle of the pool, did you? Look where you are. And I was absolutely buzzing. So I'm over the moon. So your support means so much. But the whole reason I'm doing this video, and I know I've waffled, but that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? Don't think whatever has impacted you has to take your whole life from you. I am 61 now. This happened when I was about 10. Yeah, 50 years, 50 plus years ago. And I have been terrified, and I mean terrified, of lying on my back in water, being on my back in water, even thinking of trying to swim on my back. And if you don't take anything else from this, take it. You can overcome a lot of the things that you think own you. Because that's how it felt. It felt like it had got me. And it felt like it was something that had happened to me that I had no control over it, and I'd never have any control over it ever. And what's happened this week proves I was wrong. Absolutely proves I was wrong. Yes, it's taken time to get there. I am so blessed to have Claire on side. You know, we've become mates out of it, which is an absolute godsend bonus to it. But she's been amazing, and I keep saying to her, and I will hound her, and if you're watching, Claire, you will know I will hound you. She needs to be working with people that have got issues over water confidence. She absolutely does. There's not been any pressure. It's been, we go in, if it happens, it happens. And that has helped massively, because it's took the pressure. I put myself under enough pressure without everybody else putting me under any pressure. And it's worked really, really well. So if you've got any fears, phobias, be they traumatic or be they not, and you've just got major issues, get some help. Find somebody who can help. It's like the whole gagging, the being sick, the emetophobia I had. That, we nailed that last year. I never thought I'd get over that. And again, it was finding a way to deal with it. And for me, for that, it was hypnotherapy with Vic. You know, never in a month of Sundays did I think I'd have got past that. But I did. And, you know, before that, we've had the whole more personal stuff regarding the adoption that I worked with Andy with. They're all things that have had me for best part of 60 years. And you can come out of it. You can beat it. You just need to find the right way to beat it for you. Everybody's different. Absolutely. Every single soul will judge the same situation differently. And it will impact every single person differently, to a differing degree, in a different way, and that's okay. It's okay. You know, and to quote what we see everywhere, it's okay to not be okay. But it's about finding a way to get control of it. Because the control is what eats you. The control is the bit that makes you terrified. And it's about you taking control of your life back. You know, if I can do it, you can. And if you need help finding the help you need, inbox me. And I will do my damnedest to help you find somebody who can help you. Because this feeling I've had this week, I have been buzzing all week. And my aim was to be more confident in the water before Shell Island this year. That is a week-on weekend. Next weekend. And if you remember, I had a full-on panic attack in the sea last year because I wasn't sure how deep the water was. I was bothered. I wasn't confident. This year, it's going to be a whole different story. And I can't bloody wait, to be honest. I might even buy another bodyboard before I go. I bought one last year, panicked, I couldn't get on it in case I fell off it. Think we need another one, don't we? Let you know how that goes. But give me a shout if you need any help with any of that hoo-ha, because your life doesn't have to carry that hoo-ha till you take your last breath. and you can do something about it. I promise you.